Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of the Daily Debate. My name is Ahmed Nader, and tonight we're going to focus on the visit of the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to the White House on Monday, and the meeting that will be taking place between the Prime Minister of Israel and the US President Donald Trump, as well as the Egyptian efforts to be mediating a possible ceasefire between the Hamas resistance group and the Israeli occupation forces, as well as the possible outcomes of the visit and the meeting of the Israeli Prime Minister to the White House on Monday. But we'll be starting straight away with the main top story for today, and it comes through the participation of Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouli in the BRICS summit in Rio de Janeiro, as on behalf of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, Prime Minister Madbouli participated in the 17th BRICS summit held in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil on Sunday and Monday as well. Prime Minister Madbouli addressed the summit, at which he highlighted the Egyptian efforts alongside Qatar and the United States to reach the ceasefire agreement of January the 15th, which was violated by the Israeli aggression against the civilians. He called for the ceasefire to be reinstated immediately and urged Israel to comply with the international humanitarian law and protect civilians. Madbouli also expressed the Egyptian rejection to any plans to displace or transfer Palestinians away from their homeland, warning that such proposals endanger the two-state solution and the regional peace. The Prime Minister also called on the member states to support the Arab Islamic plan for the early recovery and the reconstruction of Gaza, and participate in an international conference on recovery and reconstruction to be held once a lasting ceasefire is agreed upon. In his speech, Madbouli noted that Lebanon and Syria are also suffering from the Israeli aggression, and that the Israeli war has extended to Iran, an extremely dangerous regional escalation that breaches the international law and the UN Charter, posing a direct threat to the international peace and security. Dr. Madbouli emphasized the importance of resolving the crises and conflicts through diplomatic means. Turning to the BRICS role amid those global challenges, he highlighted several priorities, as accelerating the joint cooperation and the integration through shared projects in energy, manufacturing, infrastructure, emerging technologies, and especially the artificial intelligence. Also strengthening the economic, financial and monetary collaboration, especially along the central banks, advance the local currency, settlements in line with the BRICS payment initiative, and increasing the financing from the new development bank in the local currencies. In conclusion, Dr. Madbouli emphasized that the BRICS' real impact lies in its ability to create the space and the vision needed to achieve shared interests across multiple fields. Diplomats from 11 emerging nations, including Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa, have been busy drafting a statement condemning the economic uncertainty. Artificial intelligence and health will be on the agenda of the summit. And we will be heading to the first report of the Daily Debate for tonight, focus on the Egyptian efforts to be reaching an immediate ceasefire between the Hamas resistance group in the Gaza Strip and the Israeli occupation forces, as Egypt held recently a high-level meeting and talks aimed at this specific target. We'll be having more details in the upcoming reports, so stay tuned.
Minister of Foreign Affairs Badr Abdelati held several separate phone calls with Qatari Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdurrahman Al Thani, U.S. President's Special Envoy to the Middle East Steve Witkoff, Saudi Foreign Minister Faisal bin Farhan, and UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres to push for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza, solidifying Iran-Israel truce and achieving broader regional stability. In the phone call with Qatari Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdurrahman Al Thani, they discussed bilateral relations and joint efforts to resume the ceasefire in Gaza Strip. The two top diplomats exchanged views on how to prevent further bloodshed among Palestinian people, secure the release of captives and detainees, and ensure an immediate and unobstructed delivery of humanitarian aid to Gaza. Abdel-Ati also reviewed Egypt's preparations for hosting the conference on the early recovery and reconstruction of Gaza in collaboration with the Palestinian government and the United Nations once a ceasefire agreement is reached. Meanwhile, the phone call with Witkoff tackled latest developments in light of ongoing mediation by Egypt and Qatar. Foreign Minister Abdel-Ati stressed the urgent need to resume ceasefire in Gaza Strip and ensure the delivery of humanitarian aid to Palestinians, with the two sides agreeing to intensify joint efforts and maintain close coordination in this regard. On Tuesday, U.S. President Donald Trump said Israel had agreed to 60-day ceasefire in Gaza, urging Hamas to accept the U.S.-backed deal to end the war and secure a captive agreement. Minister Abdel-Ati reiterated Egypt's full support for all efforts aimed at achieving security and stability in the Middle East. During his call with Saudi Foreign Minister Faisal bin Farhan, Abdel-Ati highlighted the ongoing efforts to resume the ceasefire in Gaza Strip and ensure the delivery of humanitarian aid amid worsening humanitarian conditions. Also, in a separate phone call with Guterres, Minister Abdel-Ati reaffirmed Egypt's steadfast position calling for the release of captives and detainees and the facilitation of humanitarian aid access. Abdel-Ati also briefed Guterres on Cairo's efforts to prepare for the conference of the early recovery and reconstruction of Gaza. Abdel-Ati said that Egypt is intensifying efforts to reach a swift ceasefire agreement in Gaza, stressing the urgency of halting the bloodshed among Palestinian civilians. The foreign minister said that the number of Palestinians killed has surpassed 56,000, with women and children accounting for around 70% of the death toll. He called for a more active U.S. role, saying that trilateral efforts by Egypt, Qatar, and the United States have recently intensified in hopes of building on momentum generated by the ceasefire in Iran file and shifting focus back in Gaza. Abdel-Ati emphasized Egypt's commitment to ending the humanitarian catastrophe in Gaza, including addressing the use of starvation as a form of collective punishment. He expressed hope that the current diplomatic push would lead to an immediate ceasefire, paving the way for Egypt to host an international conference on early recovery and reconstruction in Gaza as part of the relevant Arab Islamic plan.
Welcome back. You're still watching the Daily Debate, and I'm honored to be having with me over the program for tonight Dr. Hoda Ragheb Awad, the Professor of Political Science, the member of the National Council of Human Rights, and the member of the Egyptian Council for Foreign Affairs. Thank you very much for being with us tonight on the Daily Debate. Of course, we were speaking about the mediation efforts between the Hamas resistance fighters, or the group of Hamas in the Gaza Strip, and the Israeli occupation forces for the past, I would say, 2 years, to say the least.
Almost 2 years.
Yes, the efforts of Egypt alongside the United States and Qatar. How would you assess the efforts of Egypt in order to be reinstating an immediate ceasefire between both parties?
Well, the effort of Egypt really is quite, as you have just, as the whole world have seen, they were very persistent. Egypt was very persistent to come to a conclusion for the Palestinians, which is the two-state solution.
Yes.
And well, and even if Egypt refused to let the Palestinians get out of their country, and to maintain to keep their country, to keep their land, so that no one takes it from them. And that's why Egypt was very much persistent about refusing them to come or to go to any other place but to their land. So this was very important, along with Qatar, along with Saudi Arabia as well,
Yes.
as being involved. So it's many countries, actually Arab countries, helped Egypt in this regard.
Yes, Doctor, we will be taking a quick break and stay tuned for the daily debate. We will be continuing after this short break. Stay tuned.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
اللهم رب هذه الدعوة التامة والصلاة القائمة آت سيدنا محمدا الوسيلة والفضيلة والدرجة الرفيعة وابعثه اللهم المقام المحمود الذي وعدته وصلى الله وسلم على سيدنا مولانا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين.
Welcome back. You're still watching the Daily Debate, and I'm honored to be having with me in the program for tonight. In the studio is Dr. Hoda Ragheb Awad, the Professor of Political Science and the member of the National Council of Human Rights and the member of the Egyptian Council for Foreign Affairs. Thank you very much once again for being with us
It's a big
tonight.
title.
Yes, I have to say it. Of course, we were speaking before the break about the role of Egypt in mediating between Hamas and the Israeli occupation forces. How do you see historically the role of Egypt as a key pillar in mediation between Palestine and Israel?
Thank you for this question, because Egypt has been always a key pillar in mediating and between Israel and not only Hamas.
Yes.
It was also the Abbas, I mean the Palestinian Fatah. Yes, thank you, reminded me. Fatah, and this is really, never forget that. I mean, I hope that no one forgets what Egypt did and the mediation of Egypt in this regard, particularly now with Hamas. And I think Hamas is willing to accept any mediation or any solution that Netanyahu and well, the coming visit Netanyahu with Trump,
yes.
Whatever solution they are willing to, after all this war. I mean, almost, you said it's for how many? It's almost
at least 20 months. Yeah.
How many months?
At least 20 months.
20 months. This is, which is long, tiring months, and tiring not only for Hamas but also for the Palestinians themselves. So I guess you are right about Egypt. Really did and never stopped, never ever stopped at any time, never stopped the mediation.
And yesterday we heard about a possible proposal by the United States to be ending the conflict or the aggression from the Israeli occupation forces by the American President Donald Trump. How do you see this proposal and the possible solution for the conflict?
I mean, I've just said that. I mean, Hamas is willing to accept any proposal. I mean, it's very tiring, 20 months, very tiring. And Hamas understands what the Palestinians are going through with the impossible. Life has become impossible to many Palestinians. They cannot find food nor water. No, they cannot live. In other words, I won't say decent life, but they can't even live. I mean, not even normal, but they can't even live. So I think it comes to a point where it accepts any proposal. And I guess that President Trump understands this very well, and that's why, as well as there is Israel, because there were a lot of pressures on Netanyahu that for not letting the Palestinians living their life. So this is a pressure, by the way, over Netanyahu.
Those pressures from within Israel and the criticism from the international community, how would it shape the meeting between Netanyahu and Trump?
Because these pressures are that this is not human at all, humanitarian pressures. This is human from within and from outside as well. So Netanyahu started to feel that these pressures might let him lose his well, what he wants to do, actually, even in Israel, and in Israel first, not even, in Israel, and he wanted to be accepted. By the way, any president wanted, or prime minister, because he's like a president, need to be accepted by his people and by the international community.
Is he accepted by any of them?
No, he's not. And he felt it so. He is not accepted. And that's why at this point he is trying to do something. And that's why I think at this point he went to the White House.
Does this mean that unlike what we have seen over the past 20 months or maybe 2 years, the rejection of the Israeli side for any proposal or the violation of even the ceasefire that took place in January could be changing tomorrow?
Well, this is one of the objectives of this meeting, is ceasefire. I mean, I believe for 60-day ceasefire.
Yes.
So this is one of the things. And I think, I have a hunch that Israel also is very tired, the Israeli forces, because they're fighting with Iran, and this wasn't easy at all. So fighting with Hamas in the meantime and with Iran, both.
Yes.
Simultaneously,
yes.
exactly. So this is tiring as well for them.
On the other hand, we have seen the role of Egypt in general under the tenure of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi for the past 10 or 11 years, and more specifically for the past 2 years, and with Foreign Minister Dr. Badr Abdulati in this conflict, to be specific. How would you assess the efforts of Egypt and the general foreign agenda by Egypt under the tenure of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, which is characterized by a balance? Because Egypt is mediating between both Hamas, Palestine in general, and Hamas in specific in the Gaza Strip, and Israel on the other hand, alongside Qatar and the United States. So this balance, how can we maintain
Well, this is another important thing, it's the balance, as you have just said.
Yes.
Particularly that you have two Arab countries, very important Arab countries, and Amman as well. This is a third country, but it's mainly with Iran.
Yes.
Amman. So the balance is very important, because I think Egypt, particularly under Fattah al-Sisi, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, do have a long experience, by the way, in mediation. Yes. Egypt and President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi have a long experience in mediation. So, of course, to make the balance is something that is well, Egypt is expert in. So I guess this is very important, and good question you have just asked, because I guess that this balance is needed. The involvement of the Arab countries also is needed,
yes,
along with Egypt. This is very important. I mean, Egypt is not standing all alone. That's important. So other Arab countries, and they have a weight, a political weight, the Arab countries. I mean, if we speak about Qatar, if you speak about Saudi Arabia, if you speak about Amman, and they do have a political weight as well.
What about the role of the European Union and the direct contact between Egypt and the European Union to be pressuring Israel even more, to be pressuring the Israeli Prime Minister even more, to be stopping this genocide?
As you're saying,
yes,
as you
I can
see
see
that I'm laughing,
yes,
because this is, I've always been asking, where is the role of the European Union? It used to be, but not anymore. Where is the role of the NATO? It used to be, not anymore. This is important, and I don't know why they are very silent, really silent. I I don't know if you agree with me or you don't agree
yes,
with me, but they are silent and they cannot put a real pressure. If you speak about Germany, well, yes, it used to help Israel, but they don't have a say, I mean, how to pressure Israel. Well, I did attend many conferences and with the Germans, and they say, yes, I mean, they were hesitant to speak out to me about when I said, why you are supporting Israel, and you know that it's not humanitarian at all what's taking place in Palestine, in Gaza. And this is what say, yes, we know, but they couldn't say anything out loud. I mean, which made me really, and that's why I've been laughing. I mean, surprised. So.
Yes, Dr. Hoda, allow me to be going to another report for the daily debate for tonight, focusing on the upcoming visit of the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to the White House and the meeting that will be taking place between him and the U.S. President Donald Trump, as Trump is pressing and pressuring the Israeli Prime Minister into a possible ceasefire. We'll be having more details in the upcoming reports, so stay tuned.
President Donald Trump will host Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu for talks at the White House on Monday, as the U.S. President steps up his push on the Israeli government and Hamas to broker a ceasefire and hostage agreement and bring about an end to the war on Gaza. The visit will be Netanyahu's third to the White House since Trump returned to office in January. U.S. President Donald Trump on Friday said that within the next week they are going to get a ceasefire in Gaza. White House press secretary said that Trump and administration officials were in constant communication with Israeli leadership and that bringing about an end to Gaza conflict is a priority for Trump. Talks between Israel and Hamas have repeatedly faltered over a major sticking point, whether the war should end as part of any ceasefire agreement. About 50 hostages remain captive in Gaza, with less than half believed to be alive. Netanyahu became the first foreign leader to visit Trump in his second term in February, when the U.S. president surprised him by suddenly announcing a plan for the United States to take over Gaza. The Israeli premier visited again in April. The end of Israel's 12-day war with Iran has provided a window of opportunity for a deal, with Trump keen to add another peace agreement to a series of recent deals he has brokered. But on the ground, Israel has continued to pursue its offensive across the Palestinian territory in a bid to destroy Hamas. Meanwhile, Trump appeared to leverage U.S. aid to Israel at the weekend as he called for that country's prosecutors to drop corruption charges against Netanyahu. Trump posted, "The United States of America spends billions of dollars a year for more than on any other nation protecting and supporting Israel. We are not going to stand for this." Israel's war in Gaza has killed at least 56,531 people, mostly civilians.
Welcome back. You're still watching the Daily Debate, and I'm honored to be having with me on the program Dr. Hoda, Ragheb, Awad. I wouldn't be saying the title
Please,
this time,
okay.
just to save time. Of course, we're speaking about the talks that will be taking place between the American President Donald Trump and the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. In your opinion, what are the priorities for those talks, and more specifically about the ceasefire to be holding on the longer term?
For European, actually, ceasing fire, this is one important thing, and for the longer term. And I think 60-day ceasefire is quite a long term.
Yes.
But they needed more. As I said also, that it is also it's preferable for Israel as well as for Hamas 60-day
Yes.
ceasing fire. This is really needed by both sides. More important than also ceasing fire is the exchange of hostages. And this is very
For
important.
both sides.
For both sides,
Yes.
and particularly for Israel. This is, they prefer their people, whether they are alive or dead. So this is again another, the exchange of hostages. This is important as well. I guess also there's not I guess I know that ceasefire and exchange of hostages, this is important, but important is the humanitarian aid. Should be number one, humanitarian aid. And this is what Israel promised, because this is, if you are asking about European pressure here, is for humanitarian aid.
On the other hand, we have seen today the participation of Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouli at the 17th summit for the BRICS countries in Brazil, in Rio de Janeiro. And one of the main topics that were tackled is Palestine, is Gaza, and the reconstruction of the Gaza Strip, and the refusal and the rejection of the displacement of the Palestinians, as well as the reconciliation between the Palestinian factions. How would you see the importance of those topics tackled by Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa
This is
Madbouli?
very important, particularly for me,
Yes.
and this is, I can speak about it much more is the reconciliation. This is very important between the Palestinian faction.
Yes.
This is, to me, and I did speak about that in many episodes that I was invited to. This is very important because this could be an excuse for Netanyahu to speak with who? Is Hamas representing the Palestine? Is Mahmoud Abbas, Fatah, representing the Palestine? So actually, this is very important about, again, reconciliation of the Palestinian people. This is very important, and good that and the BRICS, they talked about it. And also I wanted the aid, humanitarian aid.
Yes.
This is another important thing, is that to be taken seriously. And not just, you just give them an aid and that's it, and nobody knows who takes this aid. So, I agree with what the BRICS actually, they come to, and this is the approach.
Yes.
Of the BRICS. That's
this
very
divide, those conflicts between the Palestinian factions in specific, do you think this will be changing, the whole scene would be changing following the end of the aggression of the Israeli occupation forces against the Gaza Strip?
Hopefully. I'm saying hopefully because I'm not sure. Actually, Egypt did play a very important role in trying to make a reconciliation. Really, I know that. But at the very end, it didn't work. And it didn't work because of the Palestinian factions themselves. So I hope this time it works because they see what's happening in Palestine and to the Gaza people.
And regarding the reconstruction of the Gaza Strip, there is an Arab Islamic plan that was approved by Egypt, approved by the Arab world and most of the international community. When do you think it could be implemented, or how it could be implemented?
When and how, again, based on the Palestinians themselves. By the way, this is, I just cannot speak on behalf of them.
More specifically Hamas in the Gaza Strip?
Of course, more specifically Hamas in the Gaza Strip. Definitely, because Hamas, they say that, there were a lot of strikes against Hamas because the people cannot live a normal life because of what Hamas did. And again, you don't know, this is again, if people are not happy, again in politics,
yes,
it's very important that whoever in power should be accepted by people.
Do you see, I wouldn't say a rebellion against Hamas in the Gaza Strip, but do you see changes in the Gaza Strip following what happened on the 7th of October of 2023 and of course after 20 months of aggression and the genocide war of the Israelis against the Palestinians?
Oh yes, it's a genocide war, I agree with you in this. But yes, I see that people are not having one vote, they don't accept, as I said. In politics, it is very important that whoever in power should be accepted by the people who voted for them and who voted for Hamas. People now are, started to be a rebellion. I wouldn't say they are rebellious against Hamas, but they started to be rebellious against if this continue to be, if the situation as we see it on ground continues to be.
And speaking about the reconstruction, but about the displacement of the Palestinians, because one voice, one vote, one stand by President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi 20 months ago and forever. We would not be allowing the displacement, we would be approving the displacement of Palestinians from the Gaza Strip to anywhere within Egypt or even in Jordan, because we did see the same vote or the same voice echoed by the Jordanian king. How did you see this stand ever since?
This is the best stand, I would say. This is the best stand, that we are not want them in our country. No, we don't want them to deport from their own land.
Yes.
Or being displaced from their own land. And this is, the deportation is very important. They should not be deported from their own land.
Yes, Dr. Hoda Ragheb Awad, the professor of political science, the member of the National Council of Human Rights, and the member of the Egyptian Council for Foreign Affairs. Thank you very much for being with us tonight on the Daily Debate.
You're welcome.
Anytime. And this brings us to the end of the Daily Debate for tonight. However, we'll be leaving you with the latest from the presidential activities of His Excellency President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi that took place over the past week, all wrapped up in the upcoming report. Thank you for watching and goodbye.
Via his official Facebook page, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, on the 12th anniversary of the immortal June 30th revolution, wrote, "I salute you with pride and gratitude, praising the efforts of the authentic Egyptian people who have held fast to their country, preserved its identity, and defied all challenges for its sake." President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi delivers a speech to the Egyptian people on the occasion of the 12th anniversary of the June 30th revolution. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi received Field Marshal Khalifa Haftar, Commander-in-Chief of the Libyan National Army, in El Alamein city. The meeting emphasized the special close fraternal relations between Egypt and Libya. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi made a phone call to the Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney. The President congratulated the Canadian Prime Minister on his victory in the recent general elections. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi received Lieutenant General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, Chairman of the Sudanese Sovereign Council, in El Alamein. The meeting discussed the latest developments on the ground in Sudan. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi received a phone call from the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. The call addressed the latest developments in the Russian-Ukrainian crisis. Via his Facebook page, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi extended his sincere congratulations to His Majesty the King of Denmark, the Prime Minister, the government and people of the friendly nation on the occasion of Denmark assuming the rotating presidency of the Council of the European Union. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi received Councillor Aqila Saleh, Speaker of the Libyan House of Representatives. The meeting addressed the latest developments in Libya.